Excellent. Thank you, Frank. Now over to Steve Norris, Snap Building, to talk about an innovative multifamily project. Over to you, Steve.
And you're muted right now, Steve.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Okay. And you can see my first screen there?
yep.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, my name is Steve Norris. I wear a lot of hats on this project. I'm an owner and investor. I'm also the developer through my company, Snap Building, and I work with the builder, Plaid Shirt, as well too. So I get to see all aspects of this project, and it's a bit of my baby. We do have three additional collaborators on the granting project. Four Elements also did our modeling, heating and cooling and ventilation calculations, embodied carbon, and we'll be doing the testing and guide labeling at the end as well too. Aman Adadia from Striped Antler is helping with the pro forma and business case analysis. And at the end of the project, Red Deer Polytech will be installing monitors and incorporating our energy usage for all of our electrical circuits into their data sharing alliance that they've developed. There you go. So just a quick intro on what we're building. So it's 9 units of purpose-built rental. It is two buildings on a 75-foot wide lot. So the front building, if you can see my cursor, front building is three townhomes and the rear building is 3 units over laneway suites. Here is a site plan for some more context. So front building, rear building, courtyard in between. So what we have here is three two-story townhomes that are 3 bedrooms, and each of those has a basement secondary suite that is quite large. It's actually 2 bedrooms, and has a laneway suite above the garage, which is 1 bedroom. So theoretically, we are three single-family homes, each with two secondary suites, one below and one above the garage. So in the future decades, this could potentially be sold off as subdivided single-family homes with secondary suites. Just for some reference, on the bottom right here is our front elevation. So you can see the front doors to the upper units are a little bit higher, and these lower ones that you can see are an interior stairwell down to the basement suite. And then at the top right, that's the facade of our rear building. So you can see the entrance where there's a small vestibule, and you go up to the second story, which has the living area. And then the lower doors are access to the garage. So before diving into how we're doing it, I want to start a little bit with the why. Because a large part of my job as a development consultant is arm wrestling. It's trying to twist arms of clients, convincing them that there's value in sustainability. And too often I feel like the guy on the left with the tiny arm, um, because we're missing some data. We're missing that business case for what sustainability can do. And what for purpose-built rental projects, their feasibility is driven by a financial pro forma. So the first question everybody jumps to is kind of this red circle. What does it cost? How much more does it cost for us to do this? But there's a bunch of additional questions that need to be answered as well too. And those are around how much more value is there in suites like this? How much more money could they make on a monthly basis or down the road? Things like, what if we are reducing our vacancy because tenants are happier and they stay longer and there's less turnover? What happens to our operating costs? How much less do we spend in utilities and in maintenance costs and in long-term maintenance reserves that we have to set aside for repairs? And I think the biggest one is the future value question. How much more is this project going to be worth when it is sold down the road and there's more awareness about energy efficiency. It's got a proven track record behind it. And projects like this are appraised at higher values by appraisal and acquisition companies. So as someone who supports the development industry, I find the biggest innovation in this project is demonstrating and trying to present a strong real world case for high performance building and how it affects the bottom line of a pro forma. Because those are questions that have not been answered in our context. You just don't see a lot of that out there. And a lot of the data right now comes from Europe, which is not as relatable as something that's been done here. But on the construction side, it is also innovative as well too, because there's not a lot of multifamily high performance product out there, and how to do it at a multifamily scale is not the same as doing it in a single family context. There are a lot of things that change when you're doing it at this scale. So first of all is just a heavy emphasis on efficiency at design. So there's some things that we're doing uniquely here, specifically because we're a high performance build. First of all, a lot of townhomes are 3 stories, but we intentionally kept the front building at 2 stories because it radically changes your energy consumption in the back building if it's shadowed all day long. So this gives us additional solar gain and exposure on the back building for taking heat in through our windows, but also for solar PV exposure as well too. We also needed some bylaw relaxations to simplify our roof design to maximize our solar production because our bylaws technically require you to clip the ends of these roofs and turn them, into not into a gable style like this where you get a really simple roof line. We spend a lot of effort optimizing the window sizes and locations and heights and designing the overhangs to shade us, but only in the height of summer. So there's a lot of those design considerations that are super important on multifamily scale. And obviously, the star of the show for a lot of these projects is the envelope. What are you doing to be airtight and have high insulation values all around the envelope of your project? So there's a lot of optimization work that goes into these where you are looking at the costs and benefits of different wall assemblies. So what you see here on the left is our double wall assembly. We have a structural wall on the inside, and then we're actually doing a second wall that's non-load bearing on the exterior with a gap in between. So we're reducing our amount of thermal bridging. Within this assembly, we'll be doing dense packed cellulose. So we will have 12 inches of a carbon sequestering insulating material made of recyclable material. So in that way, we're attacking both the operational carbon load, but also the embodied carbon by sequestering carbon within our insulating material. What we're going to do is add our air vapor barrier on the surface of this wall and actually build a chase wall for mechanicals on the inside. That means that our airtightness will be protected over the long term, the lifespan of the building, when renovations are done or tenants are hanging pictures, all that kind of stuff. The other thing we're doing that's optimizing performance in both ways is the no concrete SI foundation and floor system that Frank was referring to previously. As he mentioned, it's EPS foam with embedded structural steel on the inside that actually is holding the building up. So we have 13.5-inch foundation walls, and then we actually have the same. We have a 9.5-inch insulated floor underneath this with embedded strapping, and then you simply sheet it over with plywood. At multifamily scale, it can be a challenge to electrify all your mechanicals and offset that with renewables. There's a lot of electric mechanicals that people are simply not familiar with. Heat pumps, air source heat pump hot water tanks, condensing or heat pump dryers, induction ranges. There's a lot of those things that people are scared of, and we need to have projects that will demonstrate the use of those appliances. So in this project, we have both ducted and unducted heat pumps that will be used. There'll be a mini split on the rear building, and front building will have an outdoor unit with an indoor head for the main unit, an indoor head for the basement unit, and a small fan coil distribution system on the second floor. We have ERVs for dedicated distribution of heating and cooling, and then we've modeled our anticipated usage to size us for solar. So beyond the actual design and building, there are a lot of challenges to doing projects like this. I work with a lot of multifamily investors and developers, architects, builders, and there are some significant behind the scenes challenges as well too. First of all, our local zoning bylaws that are allowing us to build this kind of missing middle net zero, it's new and it's changing. So there's not a lot of certainty sometimes for developers on what they can build. The second part of that is that safety codes are also changing, and they do not necessarily align with bylaw and sustainability goals. Safety codes are for safety only. So there are many things that are implemented that are very expensive, but also conflict with sustainability. I don't know if you picked it up, but in one of those pictures, you could see a concrete wall within our assembly, and that's a firewall, which is one of those things that is a safety code issue that needs to evolve. So that it can also be done affordably and sustainably as well too, rather than having a large concrete wall running through your building. Electrical utilities can be expensive and metering is inflexible right now. The provincial regulator has certain rules about every unit having meters, not always necessary. So we've had a number of conversations with NMAX about, how they could help support affordability and sustainability in the industry. The last point here is a little bit interesting. CMHC has preferable funding for these kind of missing middle projects, but affordability has really risen to the top as the key priority for a lot of the country and municipalities as well too. So what we're finding is that incentives for sustainability are being reduced in favor of incentives for affordability, where we need to find ways to make both of those things work together. So why is this innovative important? Well, this is an incredibly fast-growing segment of development. Missing middle product with townhomes, suites, laneway suites like Frank is proposing. It's taken off. If you've driven around your neighborhood, you likely see a lot of these projects around, and they go up fast, and a lot of times they go up cheap. What we need to do is create a replicable, scalable spec that reduces operational carbon and reduces embodied carbon for all of these buildings to make it easier for these things to kind of take off. But the key is also we need to make a cogent financial argument so that more investors are willing to take on these kinds of projects. So, for me, the holy grail of the project is a business case that shows that these projects can actually perform better, particularly for investors that aren't necessarily invested in sustainability. So that's our overall goal for this project, or maybe 2.0.